Succession to Muhammad concerns the varying aspects of successorship of Muhammad after his death, comprising who might be considered as his successor to lead the Muslims, how that person should be elected, the conditions of legitimacy, and the role of successor. Different answers to these questions have led to several divisions in the Muslim community since the 1st century of Muslim history, most notably giving rise to Sunnis, Shias and Kharijites. From a historic viewpoint as recorded, with Muhammad's death in AD 632, disagreement broke out over who should succeed him as leader of the Muslim community. None of Muhammad's sons survived into adulthood, therefore direct hereditary succession was never an option. Umar, a prominent companion of Muhammad, nominated Abu Bakr. Others added their support and Abu Bakr was made the first caliph. This choice was disputed by some of Muhammad's companions, who held that Ali, his cousin and son-in-law, had been designated his successor. Later, during the first fitna and the second fitna, the community divided into several sects and groups, each of which had its own idea about successorship. After the Rashidun Caliphate turned into monarchies and sultanates, Sunnis held power in most areas of Muslim history. Shias have emerged as their opposition. From a religious viewpoint, Muslims later split into two groups, Sunni and Shia. Sunnis assert that even though Muhammad never appointed a successor, Abu Bakr was elected first caliph by the Muslim community. The Sunnis recognize the first four caliphs as Muhammad's rightful successors. Shias believe that Muhammad explicitly named his successor Ali at-Ghadir Qum. Muslim leadership belonged to him who had been determined by divine order. The two groups also disagree on Ali's attitude towards Abu Bakr, and the two caliphs who succeeded him, Umar and Uthman ibn Affan. Sunnis and the Zaydis tend to stress Ali's acceptance and support of their rule, while the 12er Shia claim that he distanced himself from them, and that he was being kept from fulfilling the religious duty that Muhammad had appointed to him. Sunnis maintain that if Ali was the rightful successor as ordained by God, then it would have been his duty as leader of the Muslim nation to make war with these people until Ali established the decree. The 12er Shias contend that Ali did not fight Abu Bakr, Umar or Uthman, because he was foretold by Muhammad about how the political tide will turn against Ali after his demise and was advised not to wage war against him. The 12er Shia also say that he did not have the military strength nor the willingness to wage a civil war amongst the Muslims. The 12er Shia say Ali also believed that he could fulfill his role of imamati without this fighting. Zaydis do not agree with the 12er Shia. After the death of Abu Bakr, Ali raised Muhammad ibn Abi Bakr. Muhammad ibn Abi Bakr was the son of Abu Bakr and was raised by Ali. When Muhammad ibn Abi Bakr was killed by the Umayyads, Aisha, the wife of Muhammad, also a renowned scholar of her time, raised and taught her nephew, Qasim ibn Muhammad ibn Abu Bakr. Qasim ibn Muhammad ibn Abu Bakr's mother was from Ali's family and Qasim's daughter Fawwa bint al-Qasim was married to Muhammad al-Baqir and was the mother of Jafar al-Sadiq. Therefore, Qasim ibn Muhammad ibn Abu Bakr was the grandson of Abu Bakr the first caliph and the grandfather of Jafar al-Sadiq. Zaydis, the largest group amongst the Shia before the Safavid dynasty and currently the second largest group, believe that on the last hour of Zayd ibn Ali, he was betrayed by the people in Kufa who said to him, "May God have mercy on you. What do you have to say on the matter of Abu Bakr and Umar ibn al-Khattab?" Zayd ibn Ali said, "I have not heard anyone in my family renouncing them both nor saying anything but good about them. When they were entrusted with government they behaved justly with the people, and acted according to the Quran and the Sunnah. The differences between the Sunni and Shia amplified after the Safavid invasion of Persia and the subsequent Safavid conversion of Iran to Shia Islam were due to the politics between the Safavids and the Ottoman Empire. The Zaydis were also forced to convert to consolidate their position. The Safavids also exploited the deep-rooted differences between areas formerly under the Persian Sassanid Empire and areas formerly under the Byzantine Roman Empire, dating back as far as the Roman-Persian Wars and the Byzantine-Sassanid Wars. For the first time in the history of Islam, the Safavids also established a hierarchical organization of the Shiite clergy and institutionalized the books written by Muhammad ibn Yaqub, Al-Kulayna, Ibn Babawayh, and Nasir al-Din al-Tusi as the law. After the demise of the Safavid dynasty, the new ruler of Persia, Nader Shah himself, a Sunni, attempted to improve relations with Sunni nations by propagating the integration of Shi'ism by calling it Jafari madhab. Since Jafar al-Sadiq himself disapproved of people who disapproved of his great-grandfather Abu Bakr, the first caliph, Jafar al-Sadiq himself gave priority to the Quran and the Hadith and felt that Islam was completed during the time of Muhammad and wanted people to refer to the Quran. Therefore, Jafar al-Sadiq did not write any books. Since Jafar al-Sadiq and Zayd ibn Ali did not themselves write any books, but they worked closely with Imam Abu Hanifa and Imam Malik ibn Anas, the oldest branch of the Shia. The Zaydists to this day, and originally the Fatimids, use the Hanafi jurisprudence, as do most Sunnis. Historiography. Most of Islamic history seems to have been primarily transmitted orally until after the rise of the Abbasid Caliphate. The historical works of later Muslim writers include the traditional Muslim biographies of Muhammad and quotes attributed to him, which provide further information on Muhammad's life. The earliest surviving written sirah is Sirah Rasul al-Abi ibn Ishaq. Although the original work is lost, portions of it survive in the recensions of Ibn Hisham and al-Tabari. Many, but not all, scholars accept the accuracy of these biographies, though their accuracy is unascertainable. Studies by J. Schacht and Goldacre has led scholars to distinguish between the traditions touching legal matters and the purely historical ones. According to William Montgomery Watt, in the legal sphere it would seem that sheer invention could have very well happened. In the historical sphere, however, aside from exceptional cases, the material may have been subject to tendential shaping, rather than being made out of whole cloth. Modern Western scholars are much less likely than Sunni Islamic scholars to trust the work of the Abbasid historians. Western historians approach the classic Islamic histories with varying degrees of circumspection. Hadith compilations are records of the traditions or sayings of Muhammad. These might be defined as the biography of Muhammad perpetuated by the long memory of his community for their exemplification and obedience. The development of hadith is a vital element during the first 3 centuries of Islamic history. There had been a common tendency among earlier Western scholars against these narrations and reports gathered in later periods, such scholars regarding them as later fabrications. Leon Catana considered the attribution of historical reports to Abdallah ibn Abbas and Aisha as mostly fictitious, while proffering accounts reported without isnad by the early compilers of history like Ibn Ishaq. Wilfred Madelung has rejected the stance of indiscriminately dismissing everything not included in early sources, and in this approach tendentious alone is no evidence for late origin. He does not reject the narrations which have been compiled in later periods, trying to judge them in the context of history and on the basis of their compatibility with the events and figures. The only contemporary source is the book of Sulaym ibn Qais, or Kitab al-Saqifa, which was written by Sulaym ibn Qais. This is a collection of hadith and historical reports from 1st century of the Islamic calendar and narrates the events which relate to the succession in detail. Succession to Muhammad from historical viewpoint. Election of Abu Bakr after uniting the Arabian tribes into a single Muslim religious polity in the last years of his life. Muhammad's death in 632 was followed by disagreement over who would succeed him as leader of the Muslim community. At a gathering attended by a small group of Muslims at Saqifa, a companion of Muhammad named Abu Bakr was nominated for the leadership of the community. Others added their support and Abu Bakr was made the first caliph. The choice of Abu Bakr was disputed by some of Muhammad's companions, who held that Ali had been designated his successor by Muhammad himself. However, Sunnis allege that Ali accepted the subsequent leadership of Abu Bakr, Omar and Uthman. According to Wilfred Madelung, following his election to the caliphate, Abu Bakr and Umar with a few other companions headed to Fatima's house to obtain homage from Ali and his supporters who had gathered there. Then, Umar saying that he will set the house on fire unless they came out. Zubair came out with his sword drawn, but fell off and lost it, and as a result Umar's men jumped upon him and carried him off. There is some evidence that the house of Fatima was searched. Ali is reported to have later repeatedly said that had there been 40 men with him he would have resisted. Abu Bakr isolated the Banu Hashim who, according to al-Zura, refused to swear allegiance for 6 months. There is disagreement among the sources about what happened next. According to Leslie Hazelton, Umar decided not to follow through on his threat burning Fatima's house with everyone in it and instead break into it. He took a running leap and threw his whole weight against the door. 12 Shiite sources narrate that Umar set fire to the door of Fatima's house and then kicked the door open, crushing Fatima, who was standing behind the door trying to keep the door shut. This crushing blow caused Mohsen, the son Fatima was pregnant with, to die in her womb and broke her ribs. This is disputed by Sunni Muslims who believe no such conflict ever occurred. The 12 Shia say Ali, who was under Muhammad's orders not to fight back, had to be patient to avoid bloodshed and was captured in chains. The 12 Shia say when Abu Bakr's election to the caliphate was presented as a fait accompli, Ali withheld his oaths of allegiance until after the death of Fatima. The 12 Shia say that Ali did not actively assert his own right because he did not want to throw the nascent Muslim community into strife. Fatima was buried in the night by Ali without any of Abu Bakr's supporters present, and the location of her grave is still disputed. The 12 Shia say Ali himself was firmly convinced of the legitimacy of his claim to the caliphate based on his close kinship with Muhammad, his intimate association and his knowledge of Islam and his merits in serving its cause. The 12 Shia say that he told Abu Bakr that his delay in pledging allegiance to Abu Bakr as caliph was based on his belief in his own prior title. The 12 Shia say that Ali did not change his mind when he finally pledged allegiance to Abu Bakr and then to Umar and to Uthman, but had done so for the sake of the unity of Islam, at a time when it was clear that the Muslims had turned away from him.